Cultural appropriation is a term used to describe when elements of a minority culture are adopted by members of a dominant culture without permission, respect, or understanding of the culture from which they are taken. It occurs when members of a dominant culture adopt practices, styles, and language from a minority culture without recognizing the historical, social, and political context in which those practices were developed. Cultural appropriation is a form of cultural exploitation that can lead to the erasure of the minority culture and its associated history. The concept of cultural appropriation is particularly relevant to indigenous peoples, who have experienced it since colonization. Indigenous peoples are the original inhabitants of the land and have an ancient culture and history that are distinct from the dominant culture. Indigenous peoples experience cultural appropriation when their culture is exploited, misrepresented, or used without their consent. This type of exploitation takes many forms, including the use of traditional dress, art, music, language, and other cultural elements without permission or recognition of the original source. When non-indigenous people appropriate elements of indigenous culture without understanding the context or history behind them, it can lead to misrepresentation and even erasure. This can be damaging to indigenous communities, as it can lead to a lack of recognition and respect for their culture. It can also lead to a loss of cultural identity, as the original meaning and significance of the cultural elements are lost. In contrast, cultural appreciation is a practice that recognizes and respects the unique cultural heritage of indigenous peoples. It is an understanding of the history and significance of indigenous cultures, and an appreciation for the contributions that these cultures have made to contemporary society. Cultural appreciation involves learning about indigenous cultures, their customs, and their history in order to gain a better understanding of their place in the world. It can also involve engaging in activities that help to promote and celebrate indigenous cultures. Cultural appreciation is a way of showing respect for the indigenous peoples and their heritage. It is an acknowledgement of their unique history and the contributions they have made to the world. By engaging in cultural appreciation, non-indigenous people can learn about indigenous cultures in a respectful and meaningful way, and can help to ensure that indigenous cultures are celebrated and respected. Cultural appropriation and appreciation are two very different concepts, and it is important to understand the difference between them. Cultural appropriation is exploitative and damaging to indigenous communities, while cultural appreciation is a way of showing respect and acknowledgement for indigenous cultures. By understanding the difference between the two concepts and engaging in cultural appreciation, non-indigenous people can help to ensure that indigenous cultures are celebrated and respected.